put it bluntly, at 3:30 p.m. on February 19th, 1982, 22-year-old Doreen Picard was brutally murdered. Not only was she brutally murdered, but her friend, 25-year-old Susan Laferte, was attacked and left in such condition she ended up having what is called amnesia. While the person who committed this heinous crime was eventually apprehended and sentenced to 85 years in prison, ladies and gentlemen, he is already out. That is correct. The person who killed a 22-year-old and brutalized a 25-year-old, he was sentenced to 85 years, but he's already out. I can't help but feel that this is a miscarriage of justice, if you ask me. You would think that somebody that's as violent that they are willing to brutalize and in one case murder two people. Wait, did that sound like anyway. If they went that far and they're already out, to me that screams injustice. But ultimately, it doesn't matter what I think. Ultimately, it's up to you, the viewer, to decide what you think. Welcome to Unsolved Mysteries Commentary Season 1, Episode 2. This is case number 1, the case of Susan Laferte. I'm sorry, maybe it's just because I'm old-fashioned, but it upsets me when I hear that somebody kills a person and they're sentenced to 85 years in prison. Number one, it should have been the not life, but a death penalty. Should have been death penalty. The guy took a life, but he only gets 85 years. Now, this happened in Massachusetts, if I remember correctly. Here, let me check real quick. No, Rhode Island. So I'm not sure if they have. Oh, they have. Whatchamacallit, they have a death sentence. Let's do a quick look, shall we? Let's do a quick look. I like to do this sort of stuff, so let's do this. There we go. See here, let's open this up. Does Rhode Island have the death penalty? Does not? Of course they don't. Of course they don't have it. In fact, they abolished all punishment for all crimes in 1984, it looks like. So this guy was apprehended. Well, he was actually apprehended in 1992, if I remember correctly. But the fact is that they abolished the death penalty. So what does this tell you? This tells you that Rhode Island, the leaders of Rhode Island, they do not care about their people. They care more about the criminals. Some of them are killers. They care more about the killers than they do their law-abiding citizens. To me, that pissed me off. But then again, I live in Washington, and the shithead leaders up here also took the same stance. Oh, you gotta be better. We gotta be better than the criminals. We gotta be better than criminals by holding them in prison for the rest of their life. If the criminals fucking cared, do you think that they would have killed people? Anyway, let's get on to the video, shall we? All right. So before I continue on, I do want to say that this isn't a case where Susan Laferte and Doreen Picard, they did something to warrant such heinous treatment. No, basically, from what I understand, I think that there were some puppies that were for sale, that they were being kept in the basement of this apartment building. And if I remember correctly, I think that's what led to this guy supposedly coming there. But under no circumstance was such a reaction, needed. Like, what the hell caused this person to kill one person and beat another person to the point they have amnesia? So let's get the video started. So there's that. 3, 2, 1.
February 19th, 1982. A quiet residential community in the small city of Woonsocket, Rhode Island. On this day 6 years ago, this peaceful New England town of 46,000 was stunned by the most savage murder in its history. At approximately 3:30 p.m., Doug Heath returned from work to his apartment on Providence Street. As he walked through the door, he found his neighbor's 3-year-old child locked out of her mother's apartment.
You know, if I had a child, I would make it known to my neighbors that if, my child is out there by themselves and you don't see a parent or anything, you know, take that as like a warning, something like something is wrong. Because normally I would try to make sure that either me or my wife would be, out there with my kid. The fact that my kid would be out there by himself, themselves basically, it should be like a warning sign, like, oh, something's not right. Why is this little girl out here when her dad or her mom is not out there with her?
When I saw Nicole standing on the stairs, I knew immediately something was wrong. Where's Mommy? I asked her where her mother was, and she told me that she was downstairs lying down. I tried the door into the first floor apartment, their apartment, and it was locked. And I knew something was wrong right there.
Doug went down to the laundry room to check on her mother, Susan Laferte.
I saw a body leaned up against the dryer. In the same instant, I turned to my left and I saw Sue lying face down in a puddle of blood. It hit me right then and there that the murder or something really bad had happened.
Now they just said that this was like the worst case, worst murder or whatever in the history of that area. Considering it's been 40 years ago, I'm pretty sure something else, something worse could have happened.
When rescue arrived at the scene along with the first officers, they found that 2 women had been brutally assaulted in a basement area of the Providence Street home, and for all intents and purposes had been left for dead.
I don't think, according to the Unsolved Mysteries wiki, I don't think that I cannot recall if the person who killed these, or killed one of these ladies and injured the other one, if he actually had a reason for why he did it. The Unsolved Mysteries talks about more about how this guy claimed that he was a victim and yada yada yada. The normal stuff that criminals will like to proclaim, that they're innocent. It's all a job against them. That sort of shit. But yeah, I don't think that the person ever mentioned why he did it. Now, here's the catch. And I'm not going to read the entire Unsolved Mysteries wiki. I'm mainly going to check out some of the bullet points. But basically, if you read it, they talk about how he pled to some charge or whatever it was. Basically, it's basically him saying that he's guilty and he understands that there's enough evidence that he did it. That could be seen as him doing it. If you're fucking innocent, why the hell would you even consider this guilty plea?
What do you have here? One woman expired at the scene, and the other one was in very, very critical condition. Rescue stabilized her the best that they could and transported her from the scene to the hospital emergency room.
I'm honestly shocked considering how barbaric this piece of shit is that did this. I'm actually shocked he did not go after that child also, because that child, as young as she is, she's still an eyewitness. So I'm honestly shocked that this guy, if he doesn't have a problem killing one person, severely injuring another, what's there to stop him from just going after the child also? Just wipe everybody out.
2 victims both lived in the apartment building on Providence Street. 22-year-old Doreen Picard was pronounced dead at the scene.
Now, if I remember correctly, I think it's Doreen. Here's a sad bit of knowledge regarding this case. Apparently, just prior to Doreen's murder, she was actually getting ready to move out of the apartment. Poor lady. If things were a little bit, if timing was a little bit different, she may have still been alive. But then again, what's there to say that if, she did move out, what's there to say that Susan Laferte could have been the one that ended up actually dying? It's sad that you hear, like how, like, for this example, Doreen Picard was about getting ready to move out, and this happens.
The other woman, 27-year-old Susan Laferte, was barely alive. She was immediately rushed to the hospital. Susan was in surgery for 2.5 hours. While she clung to life, her husband Ernie waited and prayed.
The way they described it, she was hanging by a thread. Her injuries were so severe that it was touch and go at the time.
I just can't help but wonder, like you hear them say like she was hanging on by a thread, but that really, unless you're there to actually see it, you can't really get a grasp of how bad something was. You hear, sometimes you hear hanging on by a thread used as a description for a lot of stuff, but I mean, it literally makes you wonder, like, like, was she almost dead? Did she actually, did she end up having, like, say, heart failure where she needed to use CPR to bring her back to life or something, because that's actually something that happened to my mom quite a while ago before she passed away. She was dealing with the flu, and in the ambulance on the way to the hospital, she actually her heart stopped beating, and they had to, get her back to life, basically.
Miraculously, Susan survived, but she remained in a deep coma.
It really goes to tell you, like, how strong the human will to survive is.
Fearful for her safety, the police guarded her room around the clock.
It was obvious to us that the perpetrator, in his mind, had left both girls for dead.
And, do I think this guy would have come back to finish her off? I don't think so. But then again, that's just me. But it is a good thing that they ended up having guards put on Susan for her safety.
We immediately became worried that he would realize that there was a witness to the attack and that he would come back and try to eliminate that witness by killing her.
If anything, I would have figured that the daughter would have been more at risk. The daughter would have been more at risk. There's still a chance that Susan could have passed away because of her injuries, but the daughter was left untouched. I would think that with her being the daughter being alive and able to talk, you would think that she would have been seen as more as a potential target.
We were hopeful that when she came out of the coma, she would be able to tell us who it was that had done this.
30 days later, Susan finally emerged from her coma, but she had no memory of her attack or her attacker. She developed total amnesia about what happened during the brutal assault in the basement.
Now, I'm going to say something that a lot of people may disagree with, and you cannot deny it because there have been cases. Unsolved Mysteries has had a habit of showing amnesia cases where it's been kind of alluded to that these people may not be totally telling the truth when they cannot remember stuff. Oh God, I cannot recall the name of the case, but there was a case of a guy who had amnesia, and I think they said that he was found wandering the desert or whatever. And come to find out, apparently he was actually wanted he was either by FBI or the police or whatever, because he was wanted for questioning or whatever in the theft of of an 18-wheeler that had groceries or produce or something in it. I cannot help but wonder if sometimes these cases of amnesia are legitimate or not. This case, I think she had amnesia, but if she did not have amnesia, it wouldn't be the same reasoning as, like, say you're hiding from the police, like that one case I just mentioned. Maybe if she did not have amnesia, maybe she was claiming to have amnesia because she didn't want, number one, want to be attacked again, and number two, maybe if she did not say anything, and the person was in the community still, well, they think that she doesn't remember anything, no longer a target. Maybe she was, claiming amnesia to protect her family. But ultimately, in this case, I think she did have amnesia. There it goes.
Susan's amnesia sent the investigation of this seemingly motiveless crime back to square one.
Everyone expected me to wake up and tell them who attacked me and killed Doreen.
The lady she was in a coma for, 30 days? you got to think that after so long, there's going to be a little bit of a haze there. You should let the poor lady wake up and, give her a few days to adjust to everything before you start questioning her.
I don't know who attacked us. I have no idea.
Even now, Susan's family is concerned for her safety, and she has requested that she not be identified on camera.
When I woke up out of the coma, I would be able to tell them. It's 5 years later, and I'm no closer at this period of time than I was 5 years ago.
Normally, when it comes to people who are in silhouette, I really do not believe them that much, because it's like the best case and example that of a case I recently covered. It was the case of Michael Martin. There was the guy who accused Michael Martin of robbing the gas station. His name was Doyle, because it was the alias. He was in silhouette, and part of me is thinking, like, dude, if you did something you think you were on the right side of, you were so sure that guy Michael Martin was a criminal, that you were able to say that guy robbed me. You were able to say that guy robbed me. He took all my money. He did all this. He took my car and everything. Why do you feel the need to basically hide your identity if the guy's already in prison? I'm sorry. To me, sometimes when people appear in silhouette, it's a cowardly move. It's a cowardly move. However, in Susan Laferte's case, they actually have documented evidence that she was assaulted. She was beat nearly to death. To put her out there could, elicit the wrath of the person who did this to her. So I can understand them putting, like, say, having Susan be in silhouette.
I don't know what he looked like, or anything else about him. I have no memory whatsoever of the attack.
6 years later, the police are still searching for a motive. Susan Laferte was a housewife with 2 young children and was an active member of her neighborhood watch. Doreen Picard was studying for a career in childhood development. She lived upstairs in the apartment building that the Lafertes owned. Ironically, she was packing to move to a new building on the very day of the attack.
Like I said, sometimes fate is a cruel mistress. You have a lady who is just getting ready to move out. She's getting ready to move out, and sadly, if the cards were dealt a little bit differently, she could have possibly survived.
Like Susan, Doreen's parents desperately want to find an answer as to who killed their daughter.
We go to bed thinking about her, and we wake up thinking about her. We have to keep pushing and knocking on doors, because I feel like there's somebody out there that has the missing piece to that puzzle.
I have no recollection whatsoever of basically from New Year's Eve to the 19th of February. The 19th totally is a blackout.
I cannot imagine what that's like, like being able to just not remember something. Granted, as days move forward, you're not going to remember what happened, like, say, like, a few days ago, or whatever. But the fact is, like, literally, she cannot remember because of how traumatic the injury was that she received. It isn't even just an issue like the memory simply fades away. It's literally like it was just snatched away from her.
On February 19th, the day of the attack, Susan had lunch with her sister, Carol Rivette. At 1:30, 2 friends came to the door.
Hi. Hi, Don. My sister came back from the doorway and stuck her head in the parlor and said, Carol, I'm going downstairs. I'll be right back. She came back upstairs and I could hear her talking to somebody in the doorway. So I got up to go see who she was talking to.
Get hits from him. Hi.
Yeah. Hi. I knew one of the guys, but the other guy I didn't know, and she introduced me to him.
And this is the guy that's getting the
The 2 men then went to the basement to look at some puppies that Susan was selling.
Okay, so that's what I was talking about, how there were some dogs for sale, basically.
Susan talked to the men for 5 minutes, and they left. 10 minutes later, at 1:45, Carol went home. That was the last time anyone saw Susan before the attack. No one can be sure what happened that day between 1:45 and 3:20, when Doug Heath discovered Susan and Doreen's bodies.
Okay, so I know you can't really make it out that much because I have to have the video transparent. Basically, it shows Susan going downstairs. What I think happened was that the person who attacked her first, pulled the body over to near, off to the side, and he waited for Doreen Picard to come down there. Then he executed her.
Top view between the washer and the dryer.
How you making out?
All right.
I have to admit that I was shocked by the initial scene. The brutality of the assault. It was not just a murder. It was not just an assault. It was a frenzied attack.
I wonder if it was like, it sounds like it could have been a personal thing, like, why? But then again, I'm not sure if it was personal because you have two different people. If it was a personal, like it was revenge driven, why go after two people? Unless maybe both people did something to him.
It was an overkill.
Okay, 15 lines. Okay.
Only one person, apart from Susan, saw the killer. Nicole, Susan's 3-year-old daughter, was in the apartment that afternoon. Her grandmother, Florence Laferte, tried to coax the details of the attacker's identity out of Nicole's memory.
Granted, I understand what the grandmother was trying to do, but ultimately, when you try something like that, it's going to be difficult because, number one, it's a child, and number two, the passage of time.
I came in the house, Nicole was there, and from the very beginning, she told me that she let him in. She thought that was her mother's friend.
That is something I would teach my kids, no matter what. If we own like an apartment building, because they were living in an apartment building, it isn't just like that they opened up the main door to like their apartment. It sounds like there's the building, there's like an entry point, and then that goes off into the different apartments. It sounds like this girl, Nicole, possibly opened up the main entrance to the building itself. I may be wrong about that. But back to what I was saying, though, I would teach my kids that no matter what, if somebody knocks on the door, you let an adult answer the door. We got to be safe, stranger danger and all that.
She saw the man. She says he was probably a little bigger than her father. He had a mustache. She even told me that he wore a cap with a visor towards the back. He had sneakers, and he also had jeans. When she heard her mother crying, she went downstairs, and as she was going down, he was coming up. He had a rag in his back pocket. It was red and white. She called it polka dots.
The sad thing is, we all know why that rag was red and white, and that kind of goes to show how innocent kids are. They see that, and the first thing they think of is something that they can relate it to, polka dots, But this goes back to what I was originally saying. I'm shocked. I'm honestly shocked that whoever did this, well, we all know who did it because it's on the wiki. But this guy, he did not go after the kid. The kid was a witness. I'm not sure if it's because he was worried about how long he was there already, but the fact that he left a witness was very stupid on his behalf. I'm not saying that I'm not encouraging murder or anything, but the fact is he left a witness there, and thankfully he didn't do anything to that child.
And then she was locked out in the hallway. while the man escaped through the front.
The killer left his murder weapon, a pipe, in the house as he left. It was not found for 4 days.
After the assault, Nicole was questioned extensively by the police department. As much as the police would like to have a person who definitely saw the perpetrator that day, her story has changed too much to be of real value to us. The stress and confusion that she was under at that point in time really made it very difficult to get a real solid, sure story.
She's a child. What do you expect? You know, like, children's brains are not wired the same as an adult. It's amazing that they were able to get any kind of concurrent. Is that the right word I'm thinking? Basically, they're lucky to get any sort of information that remained the same, like say the mustache and the polka dot colored rag. You know, a lot of times children don't remember that much that often.
It's a complex case because of the different factors involved. First, we have 2 victims. And those victims all bring their individual traits with them. They have their own friends. They were involved in different things. There was also 2 newspaper ads that had been running. One was for puppies for sale, and the other was for an apartment for rent. The perpetrator might have responded to one of the ads, was a friend of either one of the victims or their family, or was just a total stranger.
If he was just a total stranger and he was that violent, it really, you know, it's sad then. It's sad because normally they say that crimes are done by people that the victims know. If this is the case, and this was just like a stranger on stranger crime. And that's like what is even worse, because if you have somebody that is willing to go out there and just kill people for no reason, then that is, you know, a real bad threat to a community.
Since the murder, Doreen's family has conducted their own informal investigation, which they believe has led to a series of anonymous phone calls.
Hello?
A few months after Doreen was killed, I received a phone call about 2 a.m. He said that I should be concerned with my family and my children and not pursue the matter.
Okay, now when it comes to this, do I think that this happened? Yeah. I believe that her husband got the phone call. However, it has been shown in Unsolved Mystery, the history of Unsolved Mysteries. Here, let's actually do this. Let's do this. Let's see here. Boom, boom. We will go this. There was a case on Unsolved Mysteries. Let's see here. Oh God. Let's see here. Hold on. I can't recall the name. AJ Bro? I think it's AJ Bro or something like that. AJ Bro? Unsolved Mysteries. Okay. There was a case where this guy, he ended up disappearing. He's never been found. Oh, crap. Hold on. He's never been found. Somebody, let's see here, letter. Really? Hey, is this the right case? Okay, hold on. Water. Okay, romance backwater, bayous. Let's see. Okay, let's see here. We're drinking. I don't want to just read through this entire thing because I'm not covering this case that you see right here. I'm covering the case of Susan Laferte. But if I remember correctly, I think they mentioned like how somebody reached out to the police and basically said that AJ was in the water, and they believe that it was just some mean-spirited prank. Even though I don't even consider that to be a prank. I mean, that's just fucking evil. But they think that it was just a falsified report that somebody made to basically make it worse for the family of AJ Bro, basically. Oop, wrong one. Let's see here. There we go. Okay, back to this.
So hard. And that for openers, they might burn my garage down, my repair shop. Every time we pursue the matter, we get phone calls. Obviously, we're putting somebody uneasy. We're keeping somebody off guard.
You know, it's like a nightmare because I'm watching over my shoulder all the time. And I'm very fearful for Susan, because maybe someday this person's going to realize that, hey, maybe she can remember.
And that's why that's why I said originally, I'm shocked that their daughter was left, untouched, because of the fact that, granted, her memory may not be the best, but she's still an eyewitness. You would think that somebody, if they're willing to kill one person, severely injure a second, you think that they're going to care about a third?
I still hope every morning when I get up that maybe today something will snap and it'll come back. But it's been 5 years and it's still not, I'm no closer now than I was 5 years ago. I'm hurt. I don't look over my shoulder when I do things, but I've always got this back thought, is he still there?
And normally you hear people say that, like, a lot of times it's a criminal, that they're always worried about the long arm of the law behind them. This isn't like that. This is literally a woman who was assaulted, and she has that fear. I can only imagine how bad that is for her, always wondering if you go around a corner, the person who assaulted you may be there. Okay, here, let me turn off my camera, and I'll read it to you. Basically, Raymond Tempest was convicted of the brutal slaying of Doreen Picard. He was sentenced to 85 years in prison and has since been released. I'm pretty sure he didn't even serve half of that time, and he's already released.
Next, the story of a man who makes his living by getting married over and over. He is known as the Heart Attacker.
They call him the Heart Attacker, but on the wiki they also refer to him as Con Juan.
And so far he has fleeced his many wives of over $1 million.
Okay, so that was the case of Susan Laferte. Here, let's do this. Get this all set up. Now, here's the weird thing. I'm not sure why, but here, let's do this. There we go. I'm not sure why, but they ended up, they don't have an individual case for Susan Laferte. They don't. I even did research, but they don't have an entry, so it's basically all of the Doreen Picard. So basically, I'm just going to kind of scroll down to where I normally go, which is the extra notes. Extra notes. This case first started on the May 18th, 1988 special number 7 episode of Unsolved Mysteries. It was later reprofiled by Dennis Farina on the August 11th episode. It was featured on the show Guilty or Innocent, the Trail Went Cold podcast. Fearing for her safety, Susan asked for her identity to be concealed during her interview. And like I said, I can understand that, because the fact is there's actual legitimate proof that she was assaulted. She was beat up and everything. It isn't like it was with Doyle, the gas station attendant, who, helped get a person put in prison, but he's still too cowardly to let people see who he is. He did something good. Why is he so afraid all of a sudden? Anyway, some sources state that Susan was 27 at the time of the attack. I'm just going to kind of scroll down. This is the person who did the attack. Let's see here. I'm just going to kind of scroll down, because normally they have the most up-to-date stuff at the very bottom. Here, let's do this. God, I can't. Oh, okay. Well, here's what I was talking about before. However, on December 18th, 2017, Tempest entered the Alford plea on second-degree murder charge. This meant that although he maintained his innocence, he accepted that that there was enough evidence to convict him. If you're fucking innocent, as this guy claimed he was, because he actually went through some sort of foundation to help prove his innocence. If you're so fucking innocent and you're screaming that you're innocent, and you have this foundation there to try to help prove your innocence, why the fuck did you go for the Alford plea? No, I don't buy it. This guy did the crime. He got 85 years and he's out. I'm sorry. I do not believe him when he says that he's innocent. Okay, let's see here. In December 2020, Tempest filed a lawsuit against Pennington. Okay, now I don't know who all these players are, so I'm not going to try to research it. Pennington, Remblad, and the town of Woonsocket for their alleged roles in his conviction. He argued that he was improperly arrested, unfairly tried, wrongfully convicted, and imprisoned due to unlawful and improper actions of Remblad and Pennington. In April 2021, the town of Woonsocket and former investigators asked the federal judge to dismiss the suit. In July 2022, the courts dismissed all but one charge of the lawsuit. So what does that show? It shows that they didn't even believe this fucking guy when he claimed that he was wrongfully convicted and everything. I would really like to know what that one charge was in the lawsuit. I would like to know what that was. But yeah, so that's that. Let's go down here. It pisses me off. It fucking pisses me off. A guy kills a woman, severely injures another, gets sentenced to 85 years, and he's already out. He's already fucking out. Okay, Doreen C. Picard. Her date of birth was October 22nd, 1959. She was born in Bellingham, Norfolk County, Massachusetts. Date of death was February 19th, 1982. Age 22. Location was Woonsocket, Providence County, Rhode Island, USA. She was buried at the St. John Baptiste Cemetery, and it's also in Bellingham, Norfolk County, Massachusetts. The plot is B24. Let's take a look at the pictures. Okay, so we have, this is a picture from Unsolved Mysteries. Here we have a nice little marble tombstone. Okay, this must be like a family's resting spot. And then here you have this. That's one thing I would do if I ran this country. If I ran the United States, I'd make it mandatory that cemeteries are kept in like a really nice condition, and like when a tombstone or a headstone, whatever they're called, if they start falling into disrepair, they need to be like cleaned up, fixed up, and everything, because this is like their final resting spot. Every tombstone should be nice and pristine, so future generations can see who it is that actually resides at that spot. Yes, I know I'm preaching a little bit. And then her parents, her father was Ronald L. Picard, 1941 to unknown, and then Simone Bertha Robideau Picard, 1942 to 2024. And that was the case of, let's see here. I'm still working on this. That was the case of Susan Laferte. Stay tuned, and I'll be right back. Okay, so that is another one in the history books, ladies and gentlemen. I realized during editing and everything, I had the wrong title information that you can see here. This is actually season 1, episode 3, but I have it season 1, episode 2. I have it both, titled for the closing credits that you see and the opening credits. But that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Ultimately, it falls upon you. Do you think that this Tempest person, do you think he was guilty for these crimes, or do you think he was innocent? Me, I think he was guilty as fuck, but it doesn't matter what I think. It ultimately matters what you think. Do you think he's innocent, or do you think he's guilty? Next time, ladies and gentlemen, we will have the fraud case of Louis Carlucci. This guy basically went around and he married numerous ladies, and he has numerous kids. He never got a divorce. He just basically would marry them, take as much money as possible, and then he'd leave them to basically flap around in the wind. But that is it. I will see you next time. My name is Jeff, aka GCurse. Wishing you all a great day. Stay safe, everybody. Peace out.